So Alan, in I would say definitely in the dozens of hours of conversation that we've had over the years, one of the things that's really stood out for me is just in casual conversation you're bringing up of how you're brining Berkshire hog. Is that it? No, not Berkshire. Is it Berkshire?
Yep.
Right. And these little projects you have going on outside, in your personal life outside of the chocolate factory. And my favorite conversation that we had that I thought was interesting and sort of illustrative of your passion and also a bit of my background was when we had this conversation around how you could maintain this particular yeast that you wanted to use to make, was it balsamic vinegar?
Yeah.
Right. So what's the name of that yeast again, and why did you wanted to plate it on agar so that you could propagate it, or?
I think it's Zygosaccharomyces. I think the subtype is Bailey, I think. And yeah, I had gotten a slant, which for those who don't know what a slant is it's like a test tube with an agar / food solution in it that solidifies in a slanted way in the test tube, I guess, to increase the surface area on which the yeast can grow. And it was sent to me like that, with the yeast growing right on the surface. And I wanted to use those yeast, or that culture, for the beginning part of the process of making balsamic, but I wanted to have backups because I think it cost me $40 to get that single slant. So I was looking into ways to create my own slants and trying to figure out how to make the agar solution myself and make sure that I wasn't contaminating those slants with other things that are sort of floating around in the air naturally. And then I think you had told me at some point that in graduate school you'd studied yeast, and so then all of a sudden I thought, well, I need to call up Sunita and just ask her, how I should do this, and how, I think I wanted to know also, how would I know, or yeah, how could I look at the cultures on that slant and know that they were pure, or there was a pure culture and that it hadn't been infected by something else? Because it seemed like must be possible, but I didn't know how, or if I had the equipment to do it, assuming that I didn't. But and I think I was asking you about that.
Right. Yeah, that was really funny. So I did, as you mentioned, during my master's degree study, I used yeast as an organism to grow clones, basically, alter a particular gene with a couple of mutations or different mutations, and then use yeast as the kind of organism to create lots of it and then be able to look at the DNA and sequence it and test it for expression. Anyway, and so it was bread yeast that I was working with. And funnily enough, I guess this is sort of another lifetime because it's a stretch for me to remember all of those things. But certainly the amount of equipment that you need makes that kind of a thing difficult. You need all kinds of sort of food solutions and swirly sort of machinery, which actually you have vibrating things for chocolate, right? I'm thinking of the crossover, but that's not quite the same. That wouldn't do the kind of right swirling to allow the yeast to grow. So, in any case. So I'm curious, do you have another new thing, another sort of new food passion that you're pursuing, or a new recipe that you've worked on recently that you want to share?
Well, I'm still working on that balsamic. It's been about a year since I started it, almost a year, I think. So I got some French Colombar must and boiled it down to, I think, a concentration of 40 bricks.
What's must?
It's the juice of a grape.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what it's called in French. Actually, I should know that. But in Italian, it's mosto, musto, I guess. So they call it cooked must, mustocado. And so, you're evaporating a lot of the moisture down to 40 bricks, which is far too concentrated for the average yeast strains that you would use for wine. They just simply can't survive in a solution of 40 bricks. So you need a special type of yeast, the Zygosaccharomyces, which does just fine. And it's one of the reasons that like corn syrup manufacturers hate Zygosaccharomyces, because it can get in to the corn syrup and start to ferment it when almost no other organism can do anything. But it did, it made wine in the matter of a couple of weeks. And then I put a vinegar mother in there that I had started using a sweet white wine of some sort. And that began to acidify the wine. But then the mother just sort of fell down to the bottom, and I pulled it out, and I think all those bacteria are dead. So I'm not quite sure how this is going to turn out, because I've never tasted balsamic that is in its very earliest stages, when it hasn't undergone a lot of evaporation and concentration, and it's not nearly as acidic yet. It smells slightly like balsamic, but kind of like sherry too, which makes me think that there's a lot of oxidation that's happened, which I assume balsamic must have quite a bit of oxidation too, but I don't, again, I'm no balsamic expert yet, so it could be that what I have is perfectly fine, and if I repeat it this year and sort of do the system of aging that they do, where you take out half and you put in the new must, and then the half that you take out is in the smaller barrel, and so on and so forth, that eventually it will be good, or it maybe never will be good.
How long is balsamic usually aged for? Years?
Many years.
Many years.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
So by the time I find out, I will have spent a lot of time waiting to find out. But
right.
It's fine.
So I actually, on the note of vinegar, so my father used to make vinegar. This sort of brings up nice childhood memories for me. We used to live in an area outside of Montreal that was an old apple orchard, and so we had apple everything and ate apple in every possible form you can imagine. And so my father would also make apple cider vinegar. So we had this, there's these weird sort of glass tubings and whatever to I don't know what's happening exactly, but certain gases are being given off. And anyway, I don't know if you have to do that for balsamic as well, but it's interesting that in addition to the chocolate experimentation and the making that you're doing, you pursue that sort of that obsession, a good kind of obsession with flavor and food in many other areas.
Yeah, anything fermented pretty much is fair game. Whether it's beer, wine, or cider, or vinegar, or bread, cheese.
Sauerkraut chocolate.
Yeah. I have a gallon of sauerkraut that I just made at home in the fridge, so we're gonna have to. I was thinking of doing brining a brisket. I found a prime brisket, and I was gonna corn it, make it into corned beef, and then have the sauerkraut and do sandwiches and maybe bake some rye bread to make some sandwiches. So
can you bring cacao into there somehow?
There might.
Nibs?
Maybe nibs in the rye bread, that might work.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Alan.
Good talking.